Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this first meeting of the Area Committee for 2024. I nearly said 2004 then, but you know, we're done. We'll start off with introductions. My name's David Whip. I'm a councillor for the Evian Courts Ward. If I go to my right...
Okay, good evening. My name's David Walker. I'm Assistant Director for Operational Services and the Area Committee Coordinator for West Craven.
Hi, I'm Amanda Inman and I'm on Evian Town Council.
Hi, Chris Church, Brian Oswald, Town Council.
Thank you.
Councillor I do beg your pardon, I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
I am waking up.
Go on. You're a Pendle Council.
Pendle Council.
For Barnoldswick Ward.
Yes, as well as Barnoldswick Town Council.
But you're not here as the Barnoldswick Town Council.
I know. I have now woken up. Do carry on.
Councillor Tom Whip, Barnoldswick Ward.
Susan Land, Councillor for Evian Courts.
Councillor Mitch Strickland for Barnoldswick.
Hi, Neil Watson, Planning Officer for tonight, and I'm also substituting for Joanne, who's got COVID.
We send our sympathies to Joanne. Also in attendance we've got two members of the press. This is a really exciting committee. We've got two speakers. I was expecting somebody from the police, but they may be a little bit late, so they might come in a moment or two. Can I welcome anybody that's watching us on the live stream either now or in 50 years' time on YouTube, if we go down in the annals of history. We don't have any apologies that I'm aware of. We have one vacancy in that the Conservative councillor resigned following the last meeting. I don't think it was anything that happened at the meeting. I don't know why she's finished, but for the time being, you've got us. That's it. So if anybody wants to contact anybody for Evian Courts Ward, Councillor Land and myself, I'm more than happy to take any issues. And the three Barnoldswick councillors are here tonight. Going on to the agenda, I know that we have, but we've got two speakers. When we get onto the planning applications, we've got David Poole, the agent for the Manchester Road Highway application. We've got Mr Jackson for the 6 Cavendish Street. When we get onto that, we've got up to 5 minutes. After that, you can answer questions from members of the committee, but I wouldn't let you come back in because we get all of the calls if we do that. The first item on the agenda is declarations of interest. If there are any items where councillors have a prejudicial pecuniary interest, you need to clear it now. Nope. Item 2 is public question time, and this is where members of the public can raise any issues that do not appear on the agenda that affect West Craven. Nope. Okay, moving then on to item 3, the minutes of the last meeting, and the draft minutes that were circulated originally. There was a slight error in the issue of the land off Bailey Street, which is to do with the reinstatement of land currently being used as a compound for the Spring Mill development, was wrongly put down as land off Chapel Street, which is the other end of the site. So that's been corrected now. Would somebody move those as a correct record, please? Moved and seconded, thank you very much. I'll sign those. Item 4 is police and community safety issues. With the committee's permission, I'll just hold that over to see if somebody does turn up from the police, and I'll come back to it after we've dealt with the planning applications. So we're going to go on to planning applications now, and the first item that we've got is for permission in principle for the erection of 6 dwellings at Highley, Manchester Road, and we have got David Poole, who's the agent, to speak on the item. So, David, you can speak from there. If you want to come forward to the table, that's great. Whichever suits you. Thank you.
So, evening Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The application before you this evening comes with a strong recommendation of approval from your professional officers, concluding as it does that the proposal is acceptable in principle. As mentioned in the planning statement and subsequent planning officers' comments, the planning in principle process is limited in scope to considering matters purely associated with land location, land use and amount of development. There are many other important matters, but these are not relevant as part of the planning in principle process and are for future consideration. As members may be aware, the site's location is at the top of Manchester Road where it joins Hodge Lane. As articulated in the officer's report, the site is situated between Highley and Bleak House, which are both to the south-east of Hodge Lane. As such, this places the site as an infill plot with which the principle of development was established in a previous approved planning application. The application site is a very sustainable location, which is an 8-minute walk down King Hill onto Kelbert Road, which is the main arterial road in and out of Barnoldswick. This road is on the main bus route to Skipton and Burnley in the wider area. Also within this 8-minute walk is the largest primary and secondary school in the town. Using the same route, it will be less than a mile walk to access the town and all of its local conveniences. Certain residents have raised questions regarding the land and its appearance as agricultural use. The land is not agricultural and is not farmed as agricultural land. The land has always been part of the Highley residential curtilage.
Do you want to run something at the door? David, please carry on.
You're right, thank you. It's a linear site which will create a small number of small number of dwellings in a desirable and sustainable location. As an infill site, directly between 2 properties and also surrounded by quite a number of other dwellings in the area. So in conclusion, given the proposal meets the relevant adopted policies and local plan, then on behalf of our client, we would respectfully ask members to support the positive recommendation within the officer's report and allow the proposal to make a positive impact on Barnoldswick Town.
Thank you very much. Okay. I can hear that other people are coming in now. So. Hello.
Hello.
You all right? Okay. Sit yourselves down. We've gone on to the planning. We've kept the policing issue back. So we'll come to you in a bit. We'll just have to.
No, I'm sorry about that.
It's all right. You know, if you want to ask a policeman, sorry, you get one. Don't ask you two, because you came to the wrong door. Anyway,
Well,
right, we'll go back to planning. Right, I should mention that we have an update report where additional comments have been received from members of the public objecting to this scheme. These can be summarised as follows: traffic issues, poor visibility, no access for plant and machinery to build the dwellings, destruction during construction phase, surface water runoff, septic tanks would cause pollution, not consulted in the previous application with 1 dwelling, impact on natural habitat drainage, refuse vehicles could not service the site, low water pressure, not in keeping with surrounding area and landscape. And the report says the issues which have been raised have either been raised and addressed in the original report or are not matters of principle which can be taken into account during the commission in principle stage. These would have to be considered any technical details to be approved. Representations also been received from Lancashire Fire and Rescue requiring that any proposal is conformity with building regulations. and the report goes on to say that these issues do not change the recommendation. So, first of all, are there any committee members want to ask any questions of the agent, Mr. Poole, or if you don't want to ask any questions, go on to comment. Councillor Tom Witt.
Questions to Neil, really. So the applicant said it's a sustainable location. I mean, to my mind, off Manchester Road, there's no direct route to the town, which doesn't take you on Manchester Road, which is, doesn't have a footpath. There's a major route with quite fast-moving traffic. I mean, is that considered a sustainable location?
The difficulty, I think, we would have arguing that we've approved a pit adjoining this, so that would have contained an assessment of whether that's a sustainable location. So it would be very difficult to swap horses, because as the applicant said, there are buses that run around there. I don't know the exact locations, but I've had inspectors say that Boiley was a sustainable location because it was in close proximity to a bus route. So I think the fact that one pit's already been approved adjacent would make that argument really difficult.
Right.
Okay. And Tom, Mr. Poole referred to King Hill being the pedestrian route which takes you down to Calvert Road.
Right.
Although I do have to say that that's a pretty rugged route. It's a leisure route.
Not to be done in smart casual clothing.
No. I think I'm a bit doubtful about that, but I take the advice that Mr. Watson has given there, that having had an approval on an adjacent piece of land, we can't use that, I don't think.
Other concern was impact on the landscape. So this site would be on the slope overlooking the town, from my understanding, and it would be directly overlooking the conservation area at the bottom of Manchester Road there, and I mean, impact on the landscape there, it'd be very difficult to landscape out 6 dwellings across that length on the brow of the hill there. I mean, what's the standing on impact on the landscape?
Chairman, in terms of the impact on the conservation area, you'd expect at technical details stage, were this to be approved, that there'd be an assessment of that to come forward. It would either be acceptable or not. There was an appeal we were involved in at the bottom of Carry Lane in Code. An inspector came along and agreed with the council, not about the sustainable location, that didn't have footpaths close by, and to walk down the country lane and then up some unmade footpaths into Code, which is quite steep. So it's some similar parallels here, but the other way around, I suppose. But the inspector did say at that point, agreed with the council, that the site itself, development of it, would spoil that landscape and that location. So that is a matter of judgment for you at this stage. It won't be a costly issue, because you can say the principle of developing here per se in that landscape is unacceptable. It's obviously not what we're recommending, but that is something that you could, as a committee, legitimately take on board.
Okay, and there's mention there of impact on the conservation area, which this plot isn't in the conservation area, but it is close to the boundary, so it could be the setting of the conservation area.
This is where it's, to a degree, I'll be sitting on the fence, so to speak, with this. We've had another appeal in Barrowford, where an inspector said the impact on the conservation area should be subject to the conservation area appraisal at the technical detail stage, even though you might say that's a matter of principle as well. But So I'm slightly in a difficult position here because we've had one appeal where an inspector said do it that way. We didn't object as a council on that site to the principle in landscape terms, etc., as we did in Carry Lane. So my advice probably would be, and I'd expect on appeal an appellant to say, well, this council knows that you can deal with it by a conservation area appraisal. That's the way to deal with it in a technical manner. I think there is a difference in landscape. I think landscape is a matter that you could say is a principle.
I'll open it up to the floor for a third point.
Okay.
Would this be, am I right, as far as the landscape aspect, would this be on the horizon looking up from town?
No.
No?
But it is quite prominent. I mean, I've got some pictures on my phone, which I took yesterday, from Talbot Road, from the A56 at Calbrook, and also from Old Stone Trough Lane at Calbrook. And it's a ridgeline development. I mean, I can show the photograph, and if Mr. Poole wants to look at it as well, you know, just to verify that it is a genuine picture. Sorry, there's more potholes on this phone than panoramic vistas. So, David, do you just want to verify that that's the area?
It is more prominent from the Calvert Road side than it is from the actual Barnolwick Road conservation.
Yeah, so there's two properties on the ridge line there, which the six would be between there.
And that's some sort of Calvert Road from Salford then, you can see it better. You wouldn't be able to.
Yeah. I see it now.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm sure it's over here as well. And then sit up. Okay.
You've seen that.
Right, so it isn't overlooking the town. It would be visible from Letcliffe Park, but it's the ridge line. It's just over the Hodge Lane runs along the top of the ridge.
And I see it from the other side, yeah. Thank you.
And it's visible from the other side.
Yeah. And it would, if I've got this right, there is already, from that viewpoint, there is already a line of properties going along the top road. Not on that road.
No. Hodge Lane has got two early 20th century or late 19th century, which are surrounded by trees.
Yeah.
Highly is the property you can see on the Manchester Road end. But the ridge line at that point is clear.
Yeah, it is at that point where it's proposed to be. I'm thinking from that picture and looking from that perspective, there is a line of properties visible on Manchester Road, and then this gap, and then the couple down at the bottom.
Yeah.
So it is breaking that bit of horizon.
Yeah.
But with properties either side.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
I just worry about anything that's any more foot traffic or anything up there. And probably arguably the two most dangerous roads we've got with no footpaths up there.
We can't take that into consideration at this stage.
No, that's frustrating.
I do get that, but we have to sit here and vote where we move it next. And we have to take everything that's that's listed into some sort of consideration, even if we don't have it in discussion tonight?
Well, I would ask you not, because that could be grounds for challenge. The only thing that we can consider this, it's planning in principle, and it's the principle, and so impact on the landscape is a valid issue, and Mr. Watson has confirmed that. But if you try to say, well, we're concerned about highway safety, that will be something that would have to be dealt with at the technical detail stage. And if we took that into consideration in making a decision tonight, Mr. Poole would have us on appeal, and he'd be appealing for costs for us being unreasonable. So, you know, I think if committee were minded not to approve this, then the impact on the landscape, and it is very prominent in the landscape, would be, you know, the appropriate issue tonight.
So I think that's defendable as well. It's not clear cut. We've made a judgment about the linear nature of it, but I think certainly it's not a cost issue. It would be a referral, because I think there's a case to answer on that, even though we've come to a different balanced judgment on that.
Yeah.
Technical details, I think
Yeah.
there would be challenges, but that's not for consideration.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Could I look to committee to put a proposal on the table, please? Oh. Tom?
I'm on the fence, Chair. I think there's several concerns, but I mean they're all stuff that's to look at in technical stage.
Well,
I think that the landscape is very sort of. It's difficult to say whether the proposal could, when it actually has a full application, could be acceptable in terms of landscape.
okay. Well, I always say, if in doubt, throw it out. The applicants may well go to appeal. A planning inspector looks at it and comes to a view. If it's turned down by an inspector, the applicants might come with an alternative application which may address some of the issues of concern. We don't know, but I would be minded to turn it down. It isn't the end of the road for the applicants, but if you approve the planning in principle, you can't go back to that principle at a future point. So.
Chair, I think we should move that we reject the application, but if alone just on the impact on the landscape.
Yeah. Okay, that's moved. Is it seconded, please?
Yeah.
Seconded. Right. Any further discussion? Shall we put that to the vote? Those in favour of refusal due to the impact on the landscape. Yeah, that's unanimous. So, Mr. Poole, the application is rejected. A decision notice will be issued forthwith. It might even write it tonight. It will be dated today. And obviously the applicants have a right to appeal. Can I thank you very much for coming on tonight? And if you want to stop for the rest of the meeting, you're very welcome. That's up to you. Okay, we're going to move on now to the retention of the palisade fence at 6 Cavendish Street. We've got Mr. Jackson, and again, it's up to 5 minutes. So I noticed earlier on that you've got reams of notes.
I don't think there's lots of paper, but not really good notes.
Okay, right. So the floor is up. If you want to come forward, you're very welcome, or you can speak from there.
Fine, good, thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Chair, thank you for your time. We would like to address the following points in the planning report for consideration. The planning officer refers to sustainable development and the local plan with regards to design. On Cavendish Street, there is a mixture of housing types built in different time periods spanning several decades. The varying design of the properties reflect the favoured type of design when built. Therefore, there is no definitive, consistent street scene on Cavendish Street. The street scene consists of a mixture of materials, design and frontages. The Pendle local plan, drawn on in the report, doesn't appear to be consistently applied across Barnoldswick, West Craven and the wider Pendle, and street scenes across Barnoldswick, West Craven and Pendle have a wooden fence design on top of a stone wall above 1 metre on both period terrace and other top property types. Some examples can be found on Colne Road, Denton Street, Harper Street, Skipton Road, Wellhouse Road, Park Road and Park Avenue in Barnoldswick, just to name a few. I have photographic evidence as well that I'm more than happy to hand out for the committee. Thank you. Some of them are double-sided. Additionally, there are some individual reasons pertaining to the fence and its design we'd like to offer. Firstly, there are advanced CCTV cameras at the first floor level on neighbouring property. The camera captures the entire front of our property and the direction of the camera has not changed despite polite requests. Therefore, the fence provides our family with a small amount of privacy from being recorded when leaving and arriving at our property and when sitting outside. Secondly, the benefits of utilising available outdoor space, especially since COVID, is widely documented. As we don't have a garden and are unable to move, the fence provides us with much enjoyed outdoor space where we can sit in the summer and enjoy the outdoors. We take great pride in our family home, which when maintained to a high standard, we believe the fence enhances our living in the property and is not out of keeping with the local area. Thank you.
Thank you. This issue came up quite a while ago due to enforcement action, and I know at the time I went up Cavendish Street, and the arrangement of Cavendish Street it's peculiar because it starts at two ends rather than starting at one end, if you get the drift. So I wasn't certain whether it was at the Queen Street end or whether it was at the Terrace Row end. And I went up and I went straight past it because I didn't think it was so in your face. I thought, well, it can't be that one, it must be one at the other end. And of course it was the one that I'd gone past, dismissing it as not objectionable. So my view is that this is acceptable and that we ought to allow it. I am not now a councillor for that ward, so I leave it at the mercy of the Barnoldswick ward councillors as to what you want to do. Mate? Sorry, Councillor Strickland.
I'm sympathetic with the application for a couple of reasons. One is I did something similar where I lived just to give the rear of my property a little bit more privacy. And also I have lived on that terrace row on Cavendish Street and know how restrictive the backyards are with the outbuildings that's back onto Sackville Street.
This is at the front?
Yes, yeah, I understand, but it's about yard space and outdoor space and families trying to get out of the house when they couldn't through COVID, totally get that. And you know, I move that we accept it. It's been on our agenda now for quite some time, hasn't it, this? Kicked it backwards and forwards, and I think there's no better gauge than if you drive around somewhere like that and it doesn't jump out at you immediately, then it's not that bad. Now, I'm mindful that it might not hit every single planning criteria that we want or need, but if it doesn't jump out at you and it's proving to be a benefit, why not?
Okay. So you're moving it's approved? Chris, that's seconded. Mr Watson, are you Are you going to invoke the
It's
Ross's?
straightforward. It's either good design or bad design. If it's your view, it's good design. I wholeheartedly disagree professionally, but
Okay.
that's
All right, so
it's the democratic process.
it's moved and seconded that we approve this. Those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That's carried. So again, a decision notice will be issued in due course, but the application is approved. Thank you. Right, we're just going to leave the other planning issues for the moment, and we will come back to police and community safety issues. Would you like to introduce yourselves and then we'll question you?
Yeah,
We won't be underpaid, throw it like that.
well, there'll be no caution. I'm Tom, I'm a police officer for Colne, so I predominantly work over in the Tron area, Waterside. Mrs. Layfield, yourself from Nelson, aren't you?
Yeah, I work Nelson.
Unfortunately, Neil and Gaz are at home with their feet up because they finish work at 5. So, unfortunately for you guys, it goes.
We've been briefed, but
yeah, we've been briefed,
they're at
so
home.
we'll do our best to answer any questions you've got.
Thank you very much. Gareth did phone me up earlier today to say that he couldn't make it and that he was asking for substitutes to come. And I reported that it had been a quiet Christmas. There was not a lot of issues in terms of either policing or community safety that came up. The only issue that thinking on it of community safety, and we're going to pick that up on a future item on the agenda, is the number of flooding issues where there was quite a lot of risk in terms of people going into floods, particularly on the A56 at Suff, on the main road there. But again, it was over the Christmas period, so there weren't a lot of people moving about, so it perhaps wasn't as much of an impact as it would have been at any other time of the year. But could I ask the committee, are there any issues in terms of either the crime statistics, which we've got a schedule setting out where they are, or moving on, if there are any community safety issues that people want to flag up? Well, there you go. There's nobody raising any issues, so I just to press you, if you've been briefed, it means that there are some things.
The brief was more about the crime figures, and basically crime, thankfully, is down. Obviously, the stats are really positive when you compare to the previous December 2022. All recordable crime down 17. ASB, which has been a huge issue previously. I know Neil has done some really good work and Gaz has done some really good work around ASB in general in the area, and it seems, at least from last Christmas, to have had a positive impact with only commercial burglaries 1 and 1, which is obviously disappointing, but not something that's jumped out to us as a recurring issue at the moment. So.
Okay. Rob is wanting to ask a question.
Well, through the chairman, I don't know if you can ask a question or not, but
You can.
I'll be guided by you and how you want to answer. I know in recent reports there was some feedback from the Colne committee. I'll say this is West Craven. Sorry, forget that. The Colne matter. Apologies.
Well, Tom could probably answer a common question. However, you're not going to ask it at the West Craven committee. The one issue that there was at the last meeting, but I'm not expecting you guys to have any answers on this, was the question of cross-boundary phone calls from mobile phones, where, because of the position of the masts.
Is that where they pick up West Yorkshire to?
Well, it's North Yorkshire, so our calls getting directed to North Yorkshire. We had quite a bad example where somebody phoned in the fact that there was suspicious activity. This was on St Mary's Avenue, and there had been thefts in the area previously. They'd seen these suspicious characters, phoned it in, had gone to North Yorkshire. By the time it got to Lancashire for a response, it was a few hours later, and as a consequence, the perpetrators had stolen, I think it was a vehicle, from memory, am I right there, looking? But, you know, they were long gone. So this was picked up at the last area committee, and we endeavoured to ask whoever was at the meeting, can't remember, it says looking at, it was Gareth, yeah, so he was going to take it up with the new chief inspector, or we asked him to take it up with the new chief inspector. Have we got one yet?
There's a new inspector coming.
An inspector?
A new inspector coming starting on Monday.
Okay.
So that's James Hesker.
So sorry, the chief inspector hasn't changed, is it?
No, yeah, chief inspector. So the chief inspector is still recording. The new inspector taking over from Claire, who's been promoted to chief inspector for heading over the response and stuff.
Yeah.
So she's no longer associated with neighbourhood.
No.
And James Hesketh is taking over as the inspector for community for all of Pendle.
Right. Okay. So Gareth was tasked with picking it up with James, and I picked it up with the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner, and I won't have the opportunity because it's a special budget meeting, but there's a meeting of the Police and Crime panel at the end of the month where I was going to chase it up. I don't think I can, but I'll be able to pick it up at the next one. So, you've not been briefed on that, have you?
Nothing's been mentioned to us with regards to that. I do completely understand the frustrations of it, because it's unfortunately I have similar issues with Corson, mostly working in Tron and white-collar area and Laneshire Bridge. A lot of our calls they go through to like West Yorkshire and stuff. So I completely sympathise with you. It's very frustrating, but I'll chase up again so you can get a response to you. I'm thinking it might be next week now, just because with James starting on Monday, it may just be that's when he has a chance to speak to him, because at the moment he's still covering inspector at a response level.
Right.
So he's sort of juggling two roles almost at the moment.
Okay, all right. Is there any questions, comments on the communication issue? Tom?
I mean, I know the NHS have several similar problems around interoperability between North Yorkshire and Lancashire, especially with regards to Airedale Hospital and patient files, accessibility, everything. But I mean, that's all been worked out now, I believe. So there is a way to get it solved. I just think it's repeating it enough times in the right circles to try and get an outcome. So I hope you'll be able to do that.
But I'll be honest, with regards to sort out the maths, I don't know much about them and the way they work. But it's certainly something that I can feed back again and just obviously press on to Gaz. It's obviously something that's frustrating for yourselves and for the members of the public involved as well.
Well, I think frustrating, yeah, but it's more than that, because
it's a safety thing as well, isn't it?
Potentially, you know, there is a great risk there, and you know, having discussed it following the last meeting, there's at one level it's a telecoms issue, in the, you know, the mass pick it up and you know, direct it wherever, but then the consequent issue is the communications between police services. and I mentioned at the last meeting that, you know, going back 20 years or however long it was, I was part of a review of comms through the police authority, and we highlighted it as an issue then that you know, cross-boundary calls. But since then, the advent of you know, smartphones and the demise effectively of landlines means that, you know, that is the primary way in which people are going to be calling the emergency services. So with what 3 words and you know, all the other locator techniques that there are, there's not much excuse now that there is a technical solution to it. But again, you know, it's not your guys.
No, yeah, no, I agree with the communication. Sometimes it works really well. Only yesterday there was a call that came from GMP for whatever reason, which obviously nowhere near here, but they managed to get it to us really quick, so it didn't really matter that it went through to someone else. But I completely agree, it needs to be, that's not always the case, and there are scenarios when it's not. So it's, like I said, it's something I'll speak to Gareth about and ask him to see if we can get at least some form of response from it.
Thank you. Chris?
Thank you, Chairman. The one frustration I found when I was involved in this myself, and granted this was a couple of years ago, whether they've done anything about it, I don't know. But when I was put through to the wrong one, they couldn't patch me across to the right one. They told me to ring back. And 3 guesses, I got back to the wrong one again twice. Now this was a tree down across the road in heavy snow. It was not this side. It was over the other way towards Clitheroe, around there. If anybody had taken a corner wrong and happened upon this, it could have been extremely nasty. But the point was, it seems to be such a simple problem, or a potentially simple solution to a problem, that they should be able to at least talk to each other. If we can't choose which one we're talking to, but at least they can say, I mean, if you're ringing anybody up now on any small commercial system or anything like that, they can transfer you across via that call to another number. And the fact that with something as serious as the 999 lines, you couldn't do that. That was the most worrying thing to me.
I would imagine, I don't know for sure, I would imagine that's something to do with the fact, obviously it's an emergency call, so as soon as you through to someone, a lot of the time, the call handler is on another call almost straight away, because the lines are so busy. So I imagine that there's I don't disagree, there's things that we can do to explore it better. And it's like it's stuff I'll feed back to Gareth, and I'll speak to the inspector as well, and hopefully they'll take you some form of a better answer than we'll see. Cause
maybe it's just the case of us putting a little bit more pressure on.
Yeah, a bit more pressure on. Yeah.
Seeing if we can get the ball more moving a little bit, I suppose.
Okay. I think the feedback is, you know, you go back and say, well, them councillors have got the teeth into this, you know, you're going to have to come up with some solutions.
No, like you say, though, it's a safety issue, isn't it? If someone's being assaulted and they go through to North Yorkshire, and then there's a delay in having a response from Lancashire, working out a call, it's already can be sometimes a distance for a grade 1 to get over to Barnoldswick. So every single minute is precious, so I can completely understand that it's something that, like your colleague says, we can hopefully get the ball rolling, and we'll speak to Gaz.
It is emergency calls that this applies to, because if you do a 101, it gives you the option, press 1 for Lancashire, 2 for North Yorkshire. So, you know, there's a solution with the non-emergency, but it's the emergency stuff.
Yeah, is there any representation at your PCC meetings from ESN, so the Emergency Services Network? Now, I know fire are going under a major reel on theirs, because theirs is way behind police, just to try and bring it up to level, but I'm sure there'll be working groups around that understand how this sort of works. It might be something you can invite them to come and maybe and try and explain it, or
so look at what's that?
The Emergency Services Network.
Emergency Services Network.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I was a bit surprised about is that you'd have thought if it affects the police.
That's the issue. They are supposed to all join up.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were really antiquated because they were quite slow in moving to regional control centres where police did it many years ago. We have a benefit in the North Yorkshire because it's still a local control centre
Right.
for North Yorkshire Fire. There's the know-how and they understand straight away when they get Barnoldswick.
Okay.
It's not theirs, so they kick it back very, very quickly. But in a regional control centre like the one at Warrington that
Yeah,
we've got,
they've no idea.
people sat there will never even, they couldn't pronounce Barnoldswick,
Right.
never mind know where it is. So I just think there'll be a group working somewhere in the background that try and ties them all together because it's an home office project.
Okay. I mean, in terms of NWAS, North West Ambulance Service, I know that, you know, I'm going back over a decade, that they are very well plugged into the West Yorkshire Ambulance Service. You know, I know personally from an ambulance from Settle coming to pick me up. So, you know, they obviously communicate well at that level. And, you know, they won't have the same volume of calls, but they've obviously got a system that works. So, yeah. Okay. Is there anything further on that particular topic? No? Are there any other issues that people want to raise on the crime stats? No? Or I mentioned the flooding issues, which I think, Neil, if we could just know that, you know, we raise it as a community safety issue, but it's for others to sort of deal with those, I think. Anything else? No? Sorry, David. And we're going to take them down in evidence.
It's
All right.
Tom and Olivia,
Yeah, last ones.
Storefield and Hurst.
You see, are you going to take the collar number as well?
I've already got the chair.
You've already got it. Tom and Olivia. And Olivia, your last name is?
Hurst.
Hurst. U or I?
Yeah.
I.
Aye. Most people spell it with a U, to be fair, so
Okay, there you go.
impressive.
Right, well, can we thank you both very much for coming along to Barnwick. If you want to have a look round and catch any scallywags, you're very welcome.
We will have a drive round.
Yeah, and you can leave by either door, either the one you tried breaking in by, or
I said there's going to be an intruder alarm go off in a minute.
I've been to one before, and that was the one that we came in last time. It was open last time, so I just went on autopilot. That's my bad. But Paul's been late. Got stuck at a job as prior to come.
no problem. Okay, thank you both very much.
Thank you very
So
much.
get on with your work.
Cheers, thank you.
Right, we'll go back to the planning issues, and we've got appeals. Can we note those? Yeah, thank you. And enforcement action. Neil, I know you're only just back at work, but in terms of the former Wardle Story offices, has the owner submitted the it was the Environment Agency stuff? Is that dealt with?
No, and it'll be on the confidential items. We've not moved anything else further on either, so we're back where we were 5 months ago.
Okay. So a committee will recall that we had previously resolved to take enforcement action, and I met with the owner, with Neil, he said, look, if you get me to court and I get a fine, that will be money off actually proceeding with getting work done. So we gave him time. He undertook to submit the necessary applications to the Environment Agency in respect of a bridge over, I can't remember if it's Wentcliffe Beck or Early Beck at that point. And given that undertaking, the committee agreed to stay any further action. So, I mean, we can pick it up later on the agenda, but do we want to fire a warning shot to say if by the next committee there hasn't been any progress, that we will resolve to reactivate the action that was previously agreed?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. 6 Cavendish Street, I think we can take off. Land at the junction with Greenfield Lane, and you recall that there was an application to discharge conditions, a change of boundary treatment, which we didn't agree to. So, Neil, I don't think this encompasses that particular aspect, does it?
No, this is a separate matter on here. The thing for me to do with that, because I don't actually know exactly where we are with that. Okay. I'll make a note. I'll speak to the enforcement officer and I'll email you around with that. So I haven't got the information to hand. Okay. Thank you very much. Item 7 then, we've got a note about the area committee budget, the allocations remaining, and it's my suggestion that at the next meeting we pick this up and resolve to allocate these funds. In respect of Earby, Calbrook and Suff and Salterfirth, perhaps the town council, and I'll mention it to the parish councils, that they should apply themselves to doing it. I know Barnoldswick Town Council's got a meeting tomorrow where they've got some proposals on the agenda. So the key thing is that we're not able to carry forward funds above a certain amount. So we do want to get the monies paid out. Item 8, right, Lancashire County Council's highways reporting system, and in particular the specific conditions of Waterloo Road at Calbrook and Moor Lane, Salterfirth. But I'm aware that councillors will want to raise other areas and pick up the flooding issues. So the general problem that people have been reporting with the reporting system, which is the online system, is that even high priority potholes are not being dealt with within the time scale, you know, the 2 working days or whatever the system says. So you can have something that's 4 inches deep or over 4 inches deep, and after a couple of weeks, you know, it's still causing people to wreck the wheels or risk a cycle going into it and somebody coming off and killing themselves. So that's the first thing. And but then there's a general condition of the road. Who would like to kick off on this? Do you all shout at once? Yeah. Okay.
There's one that
Susan.
There's one that you brought up, Chair. Is it near the church at Earby? on the main road, there's a pothole there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because I know I noticed on Saturday
Okay.
when we went through that seems to have been missed.
Yeah. I think the general issue is that on the main roads there are these potholes, you know, here, there and everywhere, and they're not being dealt with in a timely fashion. There is, I mean, particularly motorists, don't worry about the noise, it's the alarm being set at the other side of the building. Motorists are you know, literally wrecking the tyres. If you're on two wheels, on a motorbike or on a cycle, you know, you'd be thrown off, and the consequences would be awful. So we've got all these sporadic potholes, if I can call them then, on the main roads, which just aren't being dealt with fast enough. So, I mean, I think that's a, you know, the general issue, without saying, oh, there's one here, there's one there, and everywhere else.
Yes.
So I think if we want to resolve something, that, you know, it's the fact that those reported on Report It or Love Clean Streets, it's the same thing, aren't being dealt with in a timely way. Yeah? Okay. Specifically at Waterloo Road in Calvert and Moor Lane in Salford, and these are listed on the agenda, these have been resurfaced in the recent past. I mean, given that, you know, the road repairs budget means that a road's got to last like 120 years. You know, if they're not lasting a dozen years, or 15 years in this case, then it's a sad state of affairs. And Waterloo Road in particular, we've highlighted previously, where it was resurfaced in 2009. It's literally fallen to bits. So there is a problem with substandard materials or substandard workmanship, and you know, the reality is it needs completely resurfacing again. You know, it's got more patches than a patchwork quilt, and I went up there yesterday. Again, I've got pictures. I mean, there's a classic picture here which I will show people, if I can find the right one. Classic picture with, I don't know whether you can see that, but there's a pothole on Waterloo Road, and there's a concrete block in it. You know, somebody's put a concrete block to try and sort of fill the pot. Can you see it? Yeah. It's bizarre. So I think in terms of those two specific roads, the question that we need to pose to the County Council is, why aren't you taking action to address the inadequate materials that we use? You know, if they're dropping to bits after 15 years, and you know, they've got to last for 120 years, well, I mean, perhaps, you know, we're in a sad state of repairs. How much is it going to cost them to redo Waterloo Road, for instance? How much is it costing them at the minute, patching it up every other week because there's a 4-inch deep pothole appeared? And so I think that's a separate issue with those two. So I think the resolution, Neil, is on the lines of request to the County Council to consider as a matter of urgency the proper repair of these two roads, but question why the materials previously used so recently have failed within a short space of time. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Tom?
I think there's also a question of preventative maintenance. I mean, the damage from these type of potholes, they're all from hydraulic action where water has got underneath the subsurface, and the weight of the vehicles passing over it has pushed that water out, taken out material, and it's crumbled up. If cracks are sufficiently filled in with tar, that can't happen. It requires water to penetrate the surface. And like the patches that they put in, they don't properly seal. And I mean that will just lead to them breaking up around the new patches, which is just going to continue having workmen coming out and repairing them time after time. So preventative maintenance as well, I think, is a key issue for the county council to get a grip on.
Yeah, yeah. Certainly, the one before the 50 mile an hour limit at Salterfirth, as you're going towards Kelbrook, it was bodged, or was it patched? It was bodged up 2 winters ago, and you can see the patch. It was bodged up last winter. You can see the bitmap in that one, and lo and behold, this year, for the 3rd year running, there's a new pothole, well, an extension of the previous pothole appeared next to the previous 2 bodges. So that's all too common, really, which goes back to the first point that we were making. In terms of poor road surfaces, the sort of complaints that I've logged from members of the public, there's a clutch of problems at Suff, where Home Close, Arthur Street, Clifton Street, the surface is just goosed, falling to bits. Green End Avenue in Earby, there's big problems there. Water Street is mentioned, but that's all, well, not all to do with, mostly to do with failed reinstatements where people have dug trenches and that they're falling to bits. Cemetery Road at Earby, and then Salterfirth, we've already picked up Moor Lane. In Barlick, Park Road, Colne Road, Moorgate Road, Valley Road, which has all that traffic from the industrial areas, and it's completely technical term, knackered. And then there's Valley Drive and Meadow Way, where they're falling to bits. And the best bit of the road is where we put the culvert in and we resurface sort of like half the road width. That's wonderful, but the old bits are just falling to bits. And the irony there is, County Council have been working in all the rest of that area, doing patching this week, but they're not touching Meadow Way and Valley Drive. So like they're ignoring the worst roads. And then the other one at Harper Street. So are there any more that people want to mention? Amanda?
Susan, that one you were imagining, the one going up to where Punch Bowl is.
Yes, there's a big hole there. Yeah.
You've got me a few times now, I've got a wheel left.
Amanda, look, once bitten, twice shy.
I've put petrol and diesel on twice now, so
Okay.
don't tell me.
I think they have bodged that one up because
It's still there a bit.
yeah, but they filled in the depth of it, but it won't last because it's just bodged up.
Yeah.
But I do a tour and I check all these out and then I go on to the reported site to see whether they say they've done something with them, which goes back to my first point about them not actually doing stuff. Because, yeah. Tom was asking, he said, why its car making a strange noise? And I said, well, it's all the potholes. He said, well, it shouldn't be driving round them all.
It doesn't need to go through them.
No, he doesn't.
I do not. Yeah. Okay, are there any other particular problem sites? I'm going to ask Mick.
Not so much a problem site, but I'm just want to try and get my head around. So I guess that, and I put the term loosely, there is a plan as to when and where they repair certain roads. Is there? Or do they just turn up, or just whoever shouts loudest, or... When I mean, I don't mean potholes, I mean they should be reported and completed within the 2-day response, but obviously they're not.
Right.
I mean in larger patching, surfacing, complete resurfacing.
Okay. The County Council have something called a Transport Asset Management Plan, and this TAMP, as they call it, is the sort of the rule that, you know, sort of everything tugs your forelock at. And this TAMP is supposed to assess the condition of roads across the county, in terms of resurfacing or surface dressing, which is preventative maintenance that Tom was on about. They look at the number of reports that they get, so the more people contact them about a pothole or a road surface or a pavement, that should sort of weigh in the balance.
Yeah.
But they do a video survey of a sample of roads every year, and that again goes into the pot. And they come up with a priority list, which is Pan Lancashire, and all the money seems to be spent in the west of the county. Sorry, I'm not sure that that's necessarily the case, but whenever you look at it, and I plotted the spend for several years, I mean like over a decade, and Pendle missed out big style, and for instance in West Craven there hasn't been any allocation from the County Council capital programme for resurfacing at all in West Craven for the last 2 years. Now I know because they're doing the patching work now on Courts Lane and literally where we live, top of Lockfield Drive got done today. Now Lockfield Drive is a cul-de-sac. It wasn't in that bad a condition, but they've been up and they've played it out and they've done a proper patching, if you can have proper patching. And this summer, I know what they'll be doing. They'll be coming along and doing surface dressing, so they'll do tar and chippings in the whole of that area. Now, by and large, those streets, those roads weren't in very bad condition at all. Maybe an odd little bit here and there, but not bad. And as I mentioned, Valley Drive, Meadow Way, which are knackered, they haven't touched. So when you say is there a plan, well, there may well be a plan, but you can't get any rhyme or reason. They're supposed to take these things into consideration. I won't say it, but I think there has been a bias on the basis of the political representation for areas, which hasn't favoured us previously. It doesn't seem to favour us now. But there you go.
So there's no way we can influence that plan. As in, if we know they've planned to do something on a road that's far less needed than another one, could we not divert them to another one?
Well, we can try, but I mean, Waterloo Road is a case in point where probably before you became a member of the committee, we were banging on about Waterloo Road and the fact that, you know, it was only done in 2009. And I mean, this what galls me is that they just waste money. You know, if they did the job in 2009, it shouldn't need to do it for another 20, 30 years, 40 or 50 years. You know, why is it falling to bits? Why are they using shoddy materials? Why are they chucking money down the drain? It really gets me. But if we ask for a member level meeting, we won't get anywhere with it. With the council passed a resolution, I think Tom put it, about, you know, dealing with defects that affect two-wheel vehicles and pedestrians, and the you know, Pendle Council picked that up with the county council. They haven't agreed to the member level meeting that we wanted, and they're saying, well, you know, what problems are there? You know, there was a lady came off her bike off a cycle at Calbrook. You know, she was in hospital for best part of a week. Could have been killed. She was fortunate. She only had broken ribs. But you know, the grooves, the seams that have worn away are still there. County Council haven't touched them. So the risk to cyclists is you know, self-evident, but they don't want to deal with it. I'm sorry, Mick, but I you know, there ought to be rhyme and reason, and you know, they ought to actually, to my mind, be dealing with some of the completely goose surfaces that we already have. But instead, they're doing Lockfield Drive, which, you know, surely I just can't get my head around how that becomes a priority. Spending thousands on it. Anyway, so.
All right.
Yeah. Right. So I think, Neil, the resolution. Okay. Yeah, I know you stopped writing about 5 minutes ago. So between Neil and I, we'll tidy up the resolution. So it's about the reported system, the failures to act in a timely manner, the sporadic potholes which they're not dealing with and which are causing big problems. And then it's a specific list of roads that we've highlighted as needing attention. And I think from what Mick was saying at the end, you know, we demand a rationale as to why the prioritising certain areas or certain roads rather than dealing with, well, the list that we've just discussed. Yeah? Is that okay? Can I move on and report it to the flooding issues?
Yeah.
Where there's a persistent bad flood at Suff on the bend by, I'll call it the brickworks, or it's happened in the brickworks for any number of years. So there's an evident issue in terms of the drain not taking the water. I've had a company, geophysical company, contact me saying they're willing to do a at-cost survey to identify what the problem is under the ground. I'll pass them on to the county council, but you know, it's an issue that happens regularly on a bad bend, and it not only goes over half the carriageway, but over the pavement too. So you've got a problem with vehicles going on the opposite side of the road and obviously meeting oncoming traffic. So there's quite a significant risk there. And the other two that we had are Brogden Lane, where the development of the bungalows on the low side appears to have affected the the problem badly. I know Julian's been down there to have a look at Julian Barraclough, Pendle's enforcement officer. But when I've studied that, there's a single gully which gets blocked all too frequently. But I think the pipe coming out of the road drain is so small that you know, it builds up on the road surface, and because they've lifted the land on the downstream side, it's got nowhere to go. So it's deeper and more extensive than it was previously, and it's causing a lot of problems. And then the other one is on Greenberfield Lane, where the land in the ownership of Rolls-Royce has extensive flooding, and that goes over Greenberfield Lane, and there is an interrelationship with Rolls-Royce's attenuation pond, which I know Pendle's engineers were looking at, although I suspect with the loss of the drainage engineers that's something that's bitten the dust. But the flooding on the highway is an issue, because people are taking the Constitutional with the dogs and then having to swim 100 metres to get from one end of it to the other. Are there any other flooding issues? But my suggestion there is that we take them up with the county council and say, look, we want some proper action. It's no good just going around with a gully sucker and saying, no, we've dealt with it, because the next time we have any rain and we end up with the same situation, it needs to be a proper investigation and solution to what the problems are.
Is it relevant to raise the matter of the flooding to the properties at the bottom of Gillian's Lane, coming out of Gillian's Beck?
Would you be declaring a prejudicial pecuniary interest, Chris?
No, because I was just coming to that. It does border my property.
Okay.
We watch it passing and causing damage to everybody. It hasn't done anything to us yet. When you mentioned the matter of the drainage officer and the vacancy, something that Gareth was suggesting was going to look at, and I have raised it with his successor, but I've had no action as yet, and that was to widen the gap on the trash screens so that it doesn't get bunged up. I've seen once again, and I know I've mentioned this before, there's a poor chap down at the bungalow at the corner, and in where the streams go into a culvert, which is neighbouring our home. I've seen this chap at 1 and 2 in the morning in storms with shovels, if he doesn't do that, and I should add he's not a young man, he'll be my age easily. If he doesn't do that, it comes up over the top down the field and straight into his house.
Yeah.
Now I know that this is a matter of surface water and streams rather than the roads. Is it relevant in this discussion?
You've raised it. I don't think it's something to take up with the county council.
No.
However,
this is right.
It would be appropriate to have a resolution asking the engineering services manager what action is being taken to deal with that trash screen, and we might, just extend it a bit to say, and other trash screens in the area.
Yes.
They were doing a programme of looking at the trash screens with a view to carrying out improvements, and Richard Gibson, who's left us now, had pulled the budget for that, which I think we reinstated at the last council budget, but then we haven't had the drainage engineers to actually implement that work. So I think it's fair coming. Has there been any flooding over the last couple of months?
The stream has not actually burst.
Okay.
It's been high enough that our distant neighbour
Yes.
has had to go up and do the routine
All right.
again.
Yeah.
The stream has not burst this time.
Okay.
It hasn't for possibly a couple of years.
Okay.
It's got very, very close, and it only gets high and, well, thick at that point
Yeah.
because of the debris,
Yeah.
not because of the volume of water.
Yeah.
Because if it's free to go down the hole, it does.
Yeah. There was a solution to improve that one, but it's never been implemented, so it would be appropriate. So it's Gillian's. Yeah. Okay. Right. Susan.
Is this the right place to bring up the gullies up Stonybank Road? The problem that LCC keep doing gullies further down, but not the bit where the problem actually is, where the water's running across the road.
Yes.
But we had a complaint from a resident about the fact that they've reported it many times, but LCC still aren't going far enough up clearing the gullies, so water's running across the road, which is making it extremely dangerous when it freezes for all traffic.
Yeah. Okay. So this is Stonybank Road, up above. Well, it's at the top where there's a bad bend. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Okay.
I can't remember which bit.
All right.
It's cold up there.
Any other flooding hotspots, Tom?
Manchester Road, junction of Gillian's Lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it has been bad. That's that one. Associated with that one, Manchester Road, bottom of Letcliffe Lane, and at the top of the lane bottom. Okay, yeah. Have we boxed that one off? Can we move on? Yeah. Right. Item 9 then. A is winter gritting on primary and secondary gritting routes. The issue here is in terms of the primary routes, and just going back to the discussion about gully emptying, there were several locations in the icy spell that we had before Christmas where gullies were blocked, and as a consequence water was running over the road, freezing. An example of that is at the bottom of Klondike, where there's a bad bend coming back round towards Salterford, and it was just a sheet of ice. Other examples, a bit outside our area, but not that far outside our area, was on Barnsley Road at Blacko, and there was another example near the Common Golf Club, where the water going across the road caused crashes at that location. So the Pendle Council said, well, they just came back when this was reported. They came back with a response to say, well, we're not really doing aught about it. So I think the appropriate resolution would be on the lines of concerned that drainage issues are not being sorted out, causing ice on the carriageways, and that the county council's response has been not to say, oh well, we'll put additional grit down there, but just to say, oh well, we've gritted them into in accordance with those policies, and there are the sort of blasé about it. The second issue was to do with the secondary gritting routes, where we've got places like Alder Hill in Earby, that's on a secondary route, but very, very rarely do Lancashire County Council come and do it. And the other one that we had this last icy spell was on Brogden Lane, where eventually they did turn out, but it was only after quite a lot of toing and froing to get them to do it. So I think the resolution is on the lines of requesting the County Council to undertake gritting routes in accordance with the policy that they've got, which is in periods of continued icing or snow, and they haven't been doing that. And then the third thing is the replenishment of grit bins, where it turns out that quite a few of the grit bins that we've got, Lancashire County Council are no longer filling them. And I don't know whether Mr Walker's picked some of these up from his secret stocks, but certainly I'm aware in the town centre areas, well in Balmoldswick, that the hand sweeper who gets his shovel into these grit bins and spreads salt on the pavement has struggled to actually get the grit out of the bin because there hasn't been any there. So I think the resolution on that one is generally asking about replenishment, but specifically the bins that no longer appear on LCC's online system, and they're saying they're not going to fill. And I've got some examples that I can feed through on that. Any further snow or ice? No? Okay. Shall we move on to youth services? I'm aware I don't want to be a monologue, but the County Council are playing silly beggars in terms of, you can write that down, silly beggars. It's in with the U, with an E. So 30 years ago, County Council opened the basement of the Civic Hall as a youth club and operated it for many years successfully. Mothballed it in 2019 and recently reopened it on a Friday night for youth sessions, and supported wonderfully by a volunteer group that now has over 24 people, volunteers, who were giving up their time to provide youth sessions and doing a really good job. The volunteer group are wanting to expand their activities to other evenings during the week. The County Council, which has been in dialogue with the Town Council, have I think the phrase used, they are reviewing their provision in the area, and up to press they've been refusing to allow the the volunteer group to expand their activities. I think they've now got agreement to a further evening session, but they'd like to do even more than that. So that's in Bonolswick. In Earby, we're trying to get the new road community centre used for regular youth clubs, and again the county council aren't being very receptive. So we have discussed it as a committee previously. I think given the failure of the county council to get the finger out and start allowing these sessions to go ahead, we need to escalate the request, and I would suggest that we do so directly to the county council and that we flag it up with the community safety partnership in terms of the impact that the diversionary activities have on antisocial behaviour, positive impact on antisocial behaviour. So that's what I would suggest we do.
So who do you want to escalate the LCC?
LCC, it's it's children and
the director,
families.
is it? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Children's director, whatever.
Yeah, and to refer the matter to Pendle's Community Safety Partnership, which meets next Monday. Amanda.
Just asking about if we did like the youth centre back at Earby, New Road, would Lancashire County Council, if we went forward with your be providing youth workers?
What's happening in Earby at the moment is there is some outreach work being done on a Friday evening, and that's through a contract that the County Council has with a social enterprise. That resource is being used to like firefighting. So they were in Briarfield, they came to Barlick, and they're now operating in Earby. What's happened with Barnoldswick is there's one Lancashire County Council youth worker who is attending the sessions on a Friday, supported by the volunteer group. Now, I don't know whether it would be possible for the same way of operating to happen here, but thank you. The New Road Community Centre is owned and essentially operated by the County Council. So they've got a building there. They used to have the best community centre in the county, and all we're asking is that they make use of it to provide youth sessions. So
I think that's just a sticking point for a lot of volunteer groups to get involved, because they haven't got the youth worker and they need that for doing anything. So I think a lot of them would be interested in volunteering to help with something like that.
yeah,
They just need the youth work working in.
yeah. So at the moment there is some provision through the social enterprise. I think the request is that the County Council make direct provision. And if they're reviewing the provision in the area, then it's an ideal opportunity for us to get in there and make the request. Susan?
I thought I remembered something from last time. It says that PC was going to look into funding that was available to support the diversionary activities for young people. Have we heard anything back?
In terms of Barlick, the volunteer group have been awarded just shy of £10,000 from the Police and Crime Commissioner. So that underpins their operation in Barlick, and allows them to do quite a range of stuff. So that's why it's a bit perverse that the county council are putting the brakes on and not allowing them to expand their activities.
So would we be able to apply for?
Well,
If there were,
yeah, we've asked them
But
about
you need the volunteer group first, do you?
yeah, there needs to be an organisation, but the Ely Town Council could be the vehicle to do that.
Well, until we get further with Lancashire County Council, we thought we use part of the council office building for some activities, not to the extent.
Yeah.
So that's why we'd asked PC about funding for that.
Have we heard anything back?
We're in discussion with them. We're hoping to get them
Right.
for a meeting.
Right, I just remembered that they'd said something about it last time and there was no discussion about what had happened.
Yeah, I know Gareth has been talking to Amanda. To get the serious funding, it is the Police and Crime Commissioner, but you can get up to £10,000 for an appropriate project. So there is a potential there. But as Amanda says, the key is getting the community centre used for the intended purpose. Okay, are we okay with that lot? Yeah? So I think we'll just tack on to the resolution that we have a report back at a future meeting, and we don't lose track of it. Item 10 is outstanding items. Well, I think we'll just note that one. Sorry, Tom.
Sorry, Chairman, the engineers are hoping to have some plans drawn up for the next meeting.
Whoa, there you go. All right then. Hoping. Yeah, very good. We've got 2 items that are to be taken in private due to the confidential nature and GDPR and all that sort of stuff. Would somebody move the exclusion of press and public? It's moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. So, can I thank Robbie for sticking it out to the end? Thank anybody that's watched in the live stream. Tom's going to turn it off now. And yeah.